From my side, of course, the season is not finished yet. We still have 3 races, so for sure the overall picture that I will leave from this season, there's still a lot you can do and try and get a positive ending to the year. But yeah, it's a fact that for me, championship is lost. But still keep pushing. And if I look back at this year, there's many positives I can take. I've been able to improve on many areas. For sure, not still enough to win the title, but I'll keep pushing. Yeah, there was some unlucky races that I lost some points, but there was also races that Lewis was better than me, and that's in the end how he made the difference. It was sometimes about really fine margins, whether it was about qualifying or how the race ended up in terms of what kind of strategy I was pushing for or he was pushing for and how things ended up. But in this sport, the point difference can look pretty big now, I know, but in the end it comes down to fine margins, and I've been unable to be as consistently at such a top level than Lewis has been this year. So I think that's made a difference, and it's not a lot, but it is enough to win. And that's something I'll really keep pushing on for the future, because I feel I'm getting better each year. So that gives me hope and motivation and that will to push more and to try and keep growing for future, and now especially for next year.
Thank you. And Lewis?
Yeah, I think, naturally Valtteri's, as he was mentioning, just getting stronger and stronger each year. The media have commented on the 2.0 and etc. And every year you can see him just grafting away at chipping away at trying to raise the bar in so many different areas. And you've seen this year, I think, whilst yes, the points gap now is where it is. It's if you look at a lot of the qualifyings, it was the smallest of margins. So closing the gap in qualifying, he has done already, which has made it quite challenging. It already did last year, but I would say even more so this year. I think race trim, and naturally you can see that obviously the consistency that I've had this year is really what's made the difference. But if you look on the race weekends, it was so close. But of course there's the points gap of those 7 points, and then that consistently over a long period of time. Valtteri was also unfortunate this year with the reliability issues, so it makes that gap even bigger than it is. And when I talk about just people need to give Valtteri his due respect, I think you've got to remember who he's driving up against. It's not easy being my teammate. It's but he comes in, weekend out, with the same mentality. He's never moaning, complaining that the car is something's wrong with the car. It's always just I've got to do a better job, and I don't know any other driver that does that here. And I think that's something we share in common. I'd like to think. We come into these weekends with a fresh head, and I think mentally he's one of the strongest drivers here.
You've scored 121 podiums in your career. Did Turkey feel like one of the best?
Well, it's definitely been a while between number 120 and the last, and the one in Turkey. But I don't know. I don't remember all of the 120 before. So obviously it's a bit of a luxury situation to be able to pick. But it was definitely very sweet because there was also no champagne. There was Sprite in the champagne bottle. So it was indeed very sweet. But yeah, it was nice to be back on the podium after such a long time and have a trophy in my hands.
And how confident are you of carrying that performance through to here in Bahrain?
Well, I think it's most likely dry since we are in the desert. So I think it will be probably a bit more difficult to get back on the podium. But that's why we're here. You never know, and hopefully we have an eventful weekend and race on Sunday and score some big points.
Esteban, can we start with you? So, turn 1 in Turkey.
Yes.
Have you two had a word yet?
Yeah, we did. I mean, Daniel came
and I apologize. I didn't know it was Daniel actually who touched me. I thought it was Valtteri who touched me twice, because the way I spun, I saw Valtteri spinning as well in turn 1. And then later in the lap, Valtteri touched me again, and we both spun, so I thought it was twice Valtteri who touched me, but then Daniel obviously apologized. He had nowhere to go. It was clear that it was not his fault. It was just, wrong place at the wrong time. Basically, I was in, and we were all sandwiched pretty much. I couldn't go wider because I was going to go out. And we were all stuck on the inside there.
You might have been third exiting that first.
I know. It was a flying start. It was the best start I had all season. I felt comfortable as well with the car later on in the race. So, yeah, it is a bit disappointing. Recently, it hasn't been the easiest. It didn't go my way each time. But we'll turn that around, and make it happen.
Kimi Alfa Romeo generally performs better in the races than in qualification. But in Turkey, both you and Antonio ended up in the top 10 in quali. Now, was that simply a matter of perfect timing, or is there a genuine breakthrough regarding setup?
No, the setup is pretty much same that we've been most of the races, and there's no match. I mean, people always say that why you don't put more effort in qualifying than in race on setup side, but at least what I found out last 10 years, there's no difference. It's not that you do something for qualifying that's gonna be faster there but slow in a race, and then opposite. It just doesn't work like that. So it's maybe a long time ago it worked like that, but for as long as I remember, it's never been like that. So. Sometimes you get it better. Others maybe struggled more in those tricky conditions than we did, and it was a lot to do with being the right tires and getting the laps in, and making the tires work, because it was very difficult to get some heat in the wet tires, and so. That was maybe better, but honestly, I'll take either the last place in qualifying if we can score points on Sundays.
Question for Alex. You've mentioned that Turkey was actually a pretty good weekend for you, but just the result didn't come. Do you think this was in the end good promo for you for the contention for next year's seat, or bad promo?
It was a good weekend, I think. On my side, it was a step forward in terms of pace. So we did a few things on my car which felt better, and I mean, at the end of the day, there's still 3 races to show what I got, and that's what I want. I want to have a good few races ahead of me.
Portimao and Imola were the races where you could secure your seat. We're in Bahrain now, and still no one knows who will partner Max in 2021. What have the team told you? Have they given you extra time? And do you have a plan B?
I would say, the focus is these 3 races. There's not really any other thought to it. It's like everything most people have a plan B, but my plan is plan A, and that's staying in the team. So I'm focused on that. That's my goal. And as I said, just focus on the last 3 races.
Checo, one of the things I guess that's more in your control is sort of what you would do outside of Formula One. But I guess that's also not straightforward given the time of the year we're in and the lack of options for next year. So have you given much thought to a plan B, or is it simply that there really isn't much of an opportunity for you to do what you want next year?
I'm clear on what I want to do. If plan A is obviously to carry on, and plan B will be to stop for a year, see how I feel, without racing, see if I really miss it, if I really want to come back, or if there's other series that I'm interested in doing, or if I rather just do something else, and stay away from motorsport. It will be just think. I will have a year to think about what I really want to do ahead of that.
Checo, can you really imagine a life away from motorsport?
Yeah, I can. I think I have a lot of interest in other stuff, away from racing. I think I'm obviously still very young. I could see myself later on, doing other businesses away from motorsport. But not at my 30s, you know. But if that comes early, then I'm happy to consider that option as well, you know. I got obviously my family that I want to see my kids growing. So many other things, you know. That yeah, I can imagine a life without motorsport.
What's the situation with your contract for next year? Are you even talking to Helmut about it yet, or are you going to wait until after the season?
My things are still the same. There is no real update, no real difference. I always can give you the same answer, more or less. I know, like I said already many times, that the chances of me being here next year are very slim. It will depend on very particular scenarios, so I'm kind of already with my mind just focusing on the 3 races here and not really thinking too much about the future. You know, just gonna give my best to this team these next 3 races, and then we will see. You know, they deserve me, you know, thinking about these 3 races and staying focused here, because in the end this year. There was a lot of ups and downs, but late it's been going better and better, and I'm just hoping to continue this trend and close this year in the best way possible, and then we will see what the future holds.
Yeah, on the topic of 2021, obviously the cars are being carried over, but there is still scope for aero development and a few other token-driven changes. So, what realistically do you think is possible next year? Do you think it's going to be more of the same struggle of this year, or do you think there is the chance to make a tangible step forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think realistically, there's for sure opportunity to always move forward, and that's what the goal is going to be. You know, we've seen on a handful of occasions that we've been in position to maybe scrape a point here and there. Sometimes, you know, not by merit, sometimes by merit. And we definitely want to be in those situations more often. So. You know, a lot of times this year, all it could have taken was a little bit more performance in the car, and you know, we could be more in the midfield fight. But I think realistically, the car is going to be an evolution of this year's car, as we see normally the case when F1 introduces the new cars for 3-year periods. You kind of have the same kind of running order for those 3 years, albeit with little changes that everyone's improving.
You know, we've not lost sight of 2020 yet, and we haven't lost sight of 2021 either. We're continuing to bring test items to the car to try and improve it this year and into next year. I think now with the new owners, it's really exciting, with more finance behind us, to be able to obviously focus into the future for 2022 and beyond, but also keep a good eye on 2021 to continue to progress the car. And I think that's exciting for us, and hopefully we can make a step to cement our place ahead of Haas and Alfa Romeo and try and catch on to the back of the midfield.
As we come into the final 3 races of the season, how are you feeling about your own performances? Are you satisfied with what you've delivered so far, or is there anything you feel like you still need to improve upon and show in the last bit of the season?
I mean, pretty satisfied, but there's always room for improvement, and I wouldn't say I've had a bad season. I think it's it's something you always look back and see things you could have done better, but I think it's gone all right.
Before we come to you, Roman, Kevin, you ran in the points in Turkey for 24 of the opening 26 laps, and then there was the pit stop issue. How much of a missed opportunity do you think that was?
I would say it was definitely a missed opportunity. By the time I pitted, I was 11th, and I think if we had not pitted, which was a pretty tough call to make at that point, because some people were pitting and then they came out and did some good lap times just around the time when I was due to pit, and so the times of people on new tires were looking good, so it was attractive to pit as well. But some people continued and had good races, like I think Perez and Hamilton, and I think maybe Ocon or Ricciardo at least. And so I think if we'd stayed out, it could have been a chance. But yeah, I don't know. It was a very for our season this year, it was a very good opportunity for sure.
And thank you. And back to Alex's question, Roman, 2020.
Yeah, I think apart from Turkey on the wet, where I was absolutely nowhere, I think the season has been pretty good. I think generally I've got the maximum of the car whenever possible. Germany was a good example. I think the race in Monza was pretty good, as well as Mugello. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the season. Obviously, it's difficult to say how good is the season because of the car we have, but I think it's a really good season.
You're currently a point apart in the championship standings. How do you view each other's strengths and weaknesses, and what can you do to beat the other one come the end of the year?
So I need to say Lando's strengths and weaknesses right now, here in front of everyone.
So we just
I tell you, I know them because I know him well by now, but I'm not willing to comment publicly on them. What I can say is that he's a very good driver, and every time I have a chance to look at his data, there's always things to learn and things to try on myself and to improve as a driver. He always has something in some corner that I'm not doing and I have to try and do, and that makes me a better driver. I think I've been lucky, to have him as a teammate because it's made me progress also, and I think that tight championship battle is also proof that I think we both had our share of bad luck this year, that we could both still, I think, be fighting for P4 in the championship for drivers, and P3 obviously for the team, but also P4 on the drivers. But unfortunately, I don't think we have that chance anymore, and we're going to have to fight with each other for P7. But the team comes first, and I can assure you now that whenever we are on track, we will be thinking more about the P3 of the team than our P7 of ourselves, because that P3 it's worth quite a bit more than our P7 for each other.
We both respect each other a lot, both on track and off track for what we can do. And I mean, especially from my side, I've learned a lot from Carlos in my first 2 years of Formula One. I've learned what not to do sometimes, but a lot more of the time I've learned what helps me and what allows me to do a better job. Yeah, it's been a good, fun time that we've had, and I've learned a lot, and I respect everything that he's been able to help me with, and we've been able to do together. So we'll be fighting each other hard, and that's one of the things. But I guess at the end of the day, we'll be pushing each other to do a good job and try and help the team get P3 in the championship.